Welcome to She Wears the Pants, the podcast where women build companies that can hold their calling. I'm your host, Ashley Deland, business advisor, multi-business founder, and startup investor, guiding women to scale with structure, strategy, and self-mastery. Every week, we go behind the scenes of high-growth, women-led brands to talk about the real work, the identity evolution, the leadership required, and the strategy that actually sustains success. If you're ready to build a business and life you love, you're in the right room. Okay, you guys, welcome to She Wears the Pants. I am your host, Ashley Deland, and today's guest is the embodiment of unapologetic ambition anchored in motherhood. Kate Scudder is a multi-millionaire, a CEO, a TEDx speaker, and a top-rated podcast host. But what sets her apart isn't just the numbers, it's the way she built them. She's scaled her multiple seven-figure empire from a farmhouse in Maine with 3 babies under 4, a laptop, and a vision so clear that it cut through some of the chaos of motherhood. Kate has helped her clients generate over $25 million in revenue, all while proving one radical, beautiful truth, and that is that motherhood is not a setback, it is a superpower. So let's welcome to the show the woman rewriting the rules of entrepreneurship, legacy building, and what it means to lead with both strategy and soul, the unstoppable Kate Scudder. Hello, my love. How are you?
Ashley, I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm on my red carpet, baby. What an intro. Thank you so much for having me.
I put some extra love into the bio because there is extra love when it comes to you. It is, as I mentioned, an honor to have you on She Wears the Pants. You are just somebody that embodies so much of what I love and what I respect. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, babe. Thank you so much for having me. It means so much.
So let's start with a little bit about your background and how you got into this beautiful world of entrepreneurship.
For sure. So I became an entrepreneur in 2017 after basically trying to go through every reason under the sun why I couldn't, why I was too late. I was living in Bali at the time with my fiance and then husband. I actually started my business and then a couple of months later got married, but I moved to Bali in 2015 and saw for the very first time a ton of people surrounding me who were running businesses, working from co-working spaces, and building companies that were the sum total of all of their gifts. And I was so confused because my background was in education. I graduated from a super top competitive liberal arts college in the US, and then I went immediately on to get my master's at 23. I was just on that ambitious, but in the more of the academic sense, but that ambitious ladder. And I immediately got a job at a school and burnt out 2 years as a 24-year-old. I mean, who burns out as a 24-year-old? But I was burning the candle from both ends. I was being asked to work for free and like coach sports for like $5, but give away so much of my time. And I was like, I cannot do this. I know I'm meant to be in front of a room. I know I'm meant to be like holding space for development and learning and growth and transformation. But I was a Spanish teacher at the time. I was like, teaching the pluscuamperfecto to like teenagers is not it. So something else is, and I don't know what that is yet. And then long story short, the summer before that, I had gotten my 200-hour yoga teacher training at Kripalu, and a couple of my teachers we're hosting this like advanced 500-hour women's leadership immersion in Bali. And I was like, oh, that is vision board material, but I can't. I'm in my school year. And I actually gave my notice in August. It was a couple weeks till the school year. And I was having like night sweats, panic attacks. I was like, this is not it. This is not it. This is not what it's supposed to feel like. So I ripped off the Band-Aid. I had no health insurance. I had no backup plan, but I was like, I am going to do something that my conditioning from super successful
Yep.
ladder climbing, academic success says not to do, I am going to become a waitress. I am going to wait some tables. I am going to be casual and just let myself off the hook and make some money. So that's what I did. And I saved up. I started a GoFundMe so that I could go to Bali.
Oh,
And
I
I got to
know.
Bali, and that month transformed me. And this is like a whole other side topic that you didn't even ask me about, but I met my husband literally a day and a half after my yoga teacher training ended. I was supposed to be leaving the next day to go to Thailand. I ended up staying, and now he's my baby daddy. We've been together for over years.
Fourth time's
It's a
up.
whole wild thing. Yes.
Oh,
But the thing
4X.
that's totally, but the thing that's so cool about this is like I stumbled into entrepreneurship. None of my background was like, I mean, my dad, bless, tried to be an entrepreneur with varying degrees of success. But it definitely wasn't modeled to me. It was definitely not the norm in where I was educated. You got a job and you just did something that was already built. And so I started my business in 2017. And that window between 2015 and 2017, I was just overcome with all of the things, right, that I think new entrepreneurs are. And it's funny to say this looking back, because I was like, yo, Kate, that's nearly 10 years ago now. But I was like, oh, I'm so late to the party. There's other people already doing this. I'm not tech savvy, all of the stories that we tell ourselves, right? And then I finally joined an in-person like incubator mastermind thing, ripped off the Band-Aid, got myself out there, and really haven't looked back. And so that was 2017. And then it was actually towards the end of January 2020, Toby and I had just moved from Bali to the States. We were settled in Los Angeles. We had just moved to LA. And I came home from a run, and I came out of the bathroom, and I was holding a pregnancy stick, and I was like, and then I had a coaching call right away. I was like, okay, gotta go, bye. And he was like our whole world just got turned upside down. And I will tell you what, Ashley, so at that point, my business was a multi-six-figure business. I scaled to six figures in under a year, multi-six in a year and a half, and I was generating amazing money. And I freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh. I remember sobbing to my business coach, who wasn't a mom at the time, and being like, I have built the wrong business. I should have built an Amazon drop shipping company. I was like, this is before the time of AI. I was like, how do I like sell inflatable pool toys on Amazon? I like, dusted off my resume, legit, my resume, which I hadn't touched in gosh knows how many years. I was like, I'm screwed. There's no way I can do both. And I, really worked through that. And it was after birthing my daughter, October of 2020, of course, everything changed in my identity, but it was on her first birthday that I got another positive pregnancy test. And it was the birth of my son, my second in under 20 months, that really rearranged me from the inside out, and that let me know, oh, the way that we've been doing business is about to radically, radically change.
You radically reinvented yourself. Okay, so nobody's asking, but I have to say this because we are just so same, but different. I literally did corporate, and within 2 years, out of nowhere, I quit, left, took a yoga teacher training for power yoga, and opened a bunch of studios. And that was my first step into entrepreneurship. And I was so close to going to the same center institution that you did to get the yoga
Oh
teacher training,
my
which is
gosh, that is
so crazy.
wild. What a small world.
I know. I think we would have lined up too. And I also loved Bali. You did like eat, pray, love CEO styles at that
Oh,
point.
it was so eat, pray, love. It was so eat, pray, love. And side note, no one's asking this either, but this is just a fun fact that is not connected to anything at all, but it is connected to eat, pray, love. I was in Costa Rica in 2023 for my good friend's wedding, and I ran into Elizabeth Gilbert on the beach in Nosada. And she was like obsessed with Jack. I was like, what is my life? And I told her, I was like, your book really inspired me to go to Bali. And then I didn't say I had a story that was better than yours, but I said I manifested my very own, handsome husband, and we're still together. So thank you for writing that book.
I love that. That is phenomenal. Okay, so the moment happened when you were looking at that pregnancy test second time around, and you're like, I need to be the woman that shifts the narrative, that shifts the perspective and the industry for women entrepreneurs. Tell me about
So,
the steps.
okay, so what's interesting, before I had Ella, and actually even after I had Ella, my podcast was called Born to Rise. My mastermind was the Rise Mastermind. And you probably get like a little bit of this flavor just 5 minutes into this conversation. I come from a background of being a competitive athlete. I played competitive basketball all while I'm growing up. I got a little of that fiery, zesty vibe. My Aries rising is probably
I'm in
showing.
Aries rising. Yes,
Stop it. We
girl.
are the same person. I'm obsessed. Okay, so I definitely, that sacred fire, that like tapas in yoga, that just go, if you want it, go after it. That was very much in my bones, in my veins, and it still is. That's not going anywhere. But what happened for me was actually at the birth of my son, Jack, which rocked me in the most incredible of ways. And I can tell that whole story. But the long story short is it was a very redemptive and healing home birth. And he was 11 pounds, and my body expelled him without me pushing. I experienced what is called FER, the fetal ejection reflex, which is when the fundus of the uterus, basically the top of the uterus, expels and pushes the baby out without the mother's conscious choice. And it rewired me from the inside out. Everything I thought I knew about what it took to achieve something or to accomplish something, with that like go getting, if you can dream it, you can do it. And I don't want to say I wasn't out there like grinding, pushing boulders up hills, but I definitely had that like hard work is where it pays off. But what I experienced through that second birth experience was something so different. And it was, this is happening through you, and your work is to get out of the way to let this happen in a bigger and more extraordinary way than you can consciously control. And I felt like life was like, sit your butt down because I am reinventing you. And that is exactly what happened. And while I was in my postpartum with Jack, like recovering and figuring out what it meant to be a mom of two under two, what it meant to be a business coach, and how I was synthesizing this like effort and effortlessness, this allowing and this discipline, I launched a little mini program called Boss Mama. This was in 2022, early 2023. And it was 6 weeks, and I can't remember, like I was so lit up in my business. I had felt kind of meh about my mastermind. I felt like, which I think happens for so many mothers, and we just don't talk about that, of feeling either like disconnected or disembodied or not aligned and alive again with your offering. But when I offered Boss Mama, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. And then the program was over, and I went back to feeling a little flat and uninspired. And I'm like, no offense to just the business coaches out there, but I was like, I don't just want to talk about opt-in copy and how to optimize your Instagram bio. Like, I want to talk about the death and rebirth of what happens when we become moms. I want to talk about how our why and our legacy is rearranged. I want to talk about the new body that we have and the new body of work that's wanting to come through us. And so all of that was sitting inside of me. And it was later that year that I closed down my mastermind. I issued over 6 figures of refunds. I ended my container early, and I gave myself permission to go into the void. And 5 weeks later, I had the whole vision and download for the rebrand to the Millionaire Mother, and stopped treating ambitious motherhood like a dirty little secret in my official business coaching practice. And I just came out with it. Like, this is the space where we do ambition and motherhood together.
I love that. I really, really love that because it is, somebody said something the other day, like, why are you entering such a male dominated industry wearing heels? And I thought that is so accurate because we almost have this perception of having to be male centric in a male dominated industry and just like put heels on and call it feminine. So I love that you boldly made that choice of stepping into that version. Can you tell me what you had to grieve or let go of while you were stepping into that, not that future identity of yourself?
Oh my gosh, so much. There is a certain, oh, I hate to admit this, but it's just true. There is a certain satisfaction. I don't know. This is true for me. Maybe it's true for you. Maybe it's true for people listening. It is so satisfying to be in the illusion of control. I love being in control. I don't even think I'm a recovering control freak. I think I am still a control freak.
I hear you.
I
With
love
you.
being in control.
Yep.
And there is nothing like the ayahuasca trip meets mystery school of birth to be like, haha, hold my beer. I'm about to fuck you up. In the best way possible. I don't want to scare anyone who's pregnant and listening to this. Like for me, the invitation to surrender, to put my idea of how things should be
Yeah.
on the altar of what is happening, it has been one of the most extraordinary initiations of my whole life. So I really had to grieve whatever part of me was associating safety with control and like really reorient. And side note, it doesn't just end at birth. Like you
Yeah.
want to 10 out of 10, 0 out of 10 recommend moving into parenthood if you would like to maintain control. Like it's not happening. All you need is a baby with blowouts and a toddler who has their own ideas and their own timeline on putting their shoes on. Like you are in for a ride, sister friend, if you think that you're going to be in control when you become a parent. And of course, there's like holding the authority frame and solid, steadiness and all of that. But I really had to grieve, like I am only safe when I have control of the outcome and learn a different way, which is so vulnerable.
Yes.
And I really had to discover that as like a grown woman mother, being like, oh, wow, I get to hold the part of me that feels tender and afraid, not being in control. And what does it look like to bring, like I was sharing, my fiery, zesty passion and personality to this like deeper wisdom way of creating? And when I birthed the Millionaire Mother into the world, the very next month, I held my very first hype event, launch event called Matriarch. And it was really about, you spoke so beautifully, Ashley, about how like the masculine frame is like, oh, just present with heels, but like do it in this really masculine way. And the whole matriarch concept was really around exploring archetypally these models of success that we've been shown. We're shown be a man, or be the girl boss and work like you don't have kids, or be the maiden and be like laughing in an infinity pool with like a floating breakfast in a pool in Bali. And like, that's how you're going to be successful. And the archetype of the mother that we have, by and large, is the martyr, the self-sacrificing one, the one who puts everyone's needs above her own, the one who eats macaroni and cheese off the floor and like commiserates and complains on the playground with her friends and calls that mothering. And I was like, no, this is the time that we birth a new paradigm, a new template of what it means to be a well-resourced mother who is well-resourced, and that overflow pours benevolently into everyone around her. That is the identity and the archetype of the matriarch. So in order to allow that archetype to awaken inside of me, I had to let go of the version of me that wanted to control everything and that was still in a little bit of that girl boss frequency, so that I could fully step into what was waiting for me.
I really want to talk about that version that you want women to be stepping into that I think is so important because believe it or not, there's so many of us that are still waiting for permission. And this
Mm-hmm.
could be that wake up call and that permission granted to step into, their own version of what motherhood looks like, or the one I absolutely want to hear the one that, that matriarch version. I do want to step into those moments where we feel like we're relinquishing control because we're in the evolution, we're walking into the new identity, and how scary and restrictive and really out of control those moments feel internally and how the doubt starts to come in on, is this the right version? Am I really moving towards somebody bigger, better, bolder? What can you whisper into the ears of women listening who are in that almost that um, slingshot period where they're getting pulled back and
Mm.
it's dark and it's uncomfortable and they're not sure, but they're about to catapult? What's some advice as someone who went through it?
I mean, one of the things, and this is actually part of drawing from that matriarch frequency, it's actually part of tapping into that matriarchal wisdom is tapping into ancestral wisdom, into a collective consciousness that is so much greater than just like individual achievement orientation. It's paying attention to the laws of nature. And so that slingshot period, I mean, I don't know who the original quote is from, but it's like, what if you weren't being buried, you were being planted? I think about how absurd, and I watched my body do this. It's been, producing and sustaining life now for the past 5 years. I've had 3 kids back to back, and I don't need to consciously like have a morning stand up with my womb and say, all right, guys, today we're growing the fingernails. I'm going to be checking your progress tomorrow at 8. Like, I don't need to do that. Or if we plant a garden, we don't need to stand over our garden and be like, all right, are you on time? Are you not? I'm not seeing any green. Are you sure you have this handled? Like, how absurd. Nature, the unfurling, the becoming, that gestational window, there is so much that happens underneath the soil in that period where we're in that dip of the slingshot or we're in that pullback and our eyes can't see what's happening. But if we're paying attention, if we're actually taking our cues from nature and how everything in the material universe is created, we all are born out of that darkness period and out of that womb-like gestational creation process that only when it's ready comes through and comes forward. And I think that's very uncomfortable because we're in a culture that is like Amazon Prime oriented. It's overnight delivery. It's look at me and my champagne in my bathtub and my $1 million and it happened overnight. And we think that if we're planted or we're in a season of discomfort or we can't see how it's going to work out or we're still fuzzy and cloudy, that we're doing something wrong. We pathologize our process as opposed to looking through the lens of wisdom and that maternal wisdom that says, oh no, you are not behind, you are literally becoming.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That line has come out of my mouth. I don't even know how many times in the past few months is the becoming. And I
Mm.
think that we forget that we're not already completed. We're not already done, and that there's so much potential and purpose and possibility ahead of us. And it's this constant evolution of the becoming. It's stepping into that. If you want to start all over again tomorrow with just a laptop, what is the first move that you would make?
So what I did in 2015, like I said, I really sat on the sidelines. I was like, oh, nobody wants to hear what I'm saying. I would start scrappy. I would create content every single day and I would build a community around a big idea. That is what TED speakers do. That is what podcast hosts are doing. That is what anybody, before you build a product or service, you build a movement, you build a brand that stands for something. So I would start talking messy, imperfect, but I would be sharing my ideas and I would be building a community because your community is going to be your lifeblood. And I would start wherever you want to start. You love Instagram, start it on Instagram. Obsessed with writing, great, start a Substack. You love talking, get out your voice recorder thing and get a Descript membership and create a podcast. But be devoted to your own expression and your liberation of your voice, your ideas, what you actually believe and what you actually stand for. That is the thing that's going to set you free.
Exactly, is not being part of the sheep and the herd. It is that uniqueness within you and allowing that to shine through. What is womanhood, entrepreneurship, matriarch? What is that to you?
For me, it is leading with unapologetic audacity and compassion and knowing like me being well resourced is a benefit to all my relations. It's healing my lineage that is going to come after me, and it's healing my lineage that came before me. We are eradicating scarcity from our bloodline. We are doing this because we know we are it's not this like strivey, prove it to the world. It is a deep remembering and returning to my worth is infinite, and I am claiming that knowing it. I'm returning to that knowing it as my birthright, and I am setting every woman I touch free in the process.
So, oh my God, I love that. I love that. What do people assume about you that isn't true?
I am, excuse me, I am a manifester in human design, and they say we have a repelling aura,
Oh,
which I don't know if that's good or bad. I think I can be intimidating to people, but I'm really a marshmallow. Like I might be a little golden brown, crispy, crunchy on the outside, but I'm so ooey gooey on the inside, and I'm very approachable and very human. The other thing is, I think this happens, and you probably experience this as well, Ashley. Like it is so easy. That's why I love podcasts and getting to be able to actually talk and dive in and have real, unfiltered, unscripted conversations. Is people assume that I'm this like perfect superwoman. And actually, my whole thing is like the anti-superwoman. But it's like, wow, multi-millionaire mom of three, homesteads, loves to cook, amazing marriage. Like her life must be perfect. And my life is totally not perfect. And my whole entire business is devoted to like the case study of my own lived experience and passing on to others what's working, what absolutely isn't, and how we can do this juggle of both and with more ease, more harmony, more grace, more success, and like learn from the things that don't work. So anytime anybody wants to pedestalize me or say like, oh, you're like this exception, I'm like, here, you can take your power right back. I don't want it. And I want you to remember who you are.
I love that. What does your current support system look like, though? Like, how do you protect your energy?
Oh yes. I mean, one of my mottos, I feel like I need to get it tattooed on my body somewhere, is widen the base of support. I was joking with a girlfriend the other day. I brought her some food for her meal train. She just had her third baby. We have very similar like spacing in our kids. And we were joking, like when I was pregnant with my first, I was so embarrassed, to send anybody my meal train link. I was like, oh,
Oh,
I can afford food. I don't have to do that. And like by the time my third came around, I'd be like getting off an elevator and like sending like, well, here's my Venmo and here's my meal train link to like strangers in the, not actually, but my energetic disposition completely changed. And with more and more kids, again, this is how we actually eradicate the martyrdom from our bodies as mothers, is allowing ourselves to receive more support. So I currently have 40 hours a week of childcare in my home. I have a housekeeper who comes in addition to that, let me think, 15 hours a week. And I have multiple team members inside of my business, but and we are about to, I am so excited, we are about to get a full-time au pair who will be working 45 hours a week in our home, in addition to 15 hours a week from our housekeeper. So I am unapologetic about investing in support that protects my margin, my bandwidth, my time. And I mean, there's so much I could say about this. Actually, I feel like we could have a whole podcast about support, but for me, it's a non-negotiable, and it's something that I think we really need to normalize and not apologize for, and also not see as like, oh, that's so, like, in one way, yes, of course, it's super privileged to be able to have that, but in other ways, this is just like the modern day capitalistic reconstruction of the village that has existed as an infrastructure in traditional societies all over the world since the beginning of time.
100%. I couldn't agree with you more. I always say, like, I have a business board of directors, I have a personal board of directors, and I have a family board of directors. Like, that's it. We have all the people in the village that help us maintain what we need. My husband and I are both entrepreneurs, so it's so important to reach out for that help and that support. It didn't take me until having my daughter to do that either. So, I mean, motherhood is a beautiful thing. What
I
do you
love
think is the
that.
most underestimated strength of feminine leadership today in the entrepreneurial world?
I would say intuition. I think that our intuition is such a superpower. And, in this whole process, I became a bit of a research nerd. And one of the things that I loved discovering about early motherhood, really starting in pregnancy, but into the first several years in early motherhood, is that the center of our brain. So, we talk about, oh, mom brain. I can't remember the name for that thingy. It's like whatever, spatula, but I can't remember what it's called. Meanwhile, I know instantly that my kid on the other side of the room, out of view, is about to touch a hot stove or put his hand out near the fire or something. It's that spidey sense. Well, that is actually this part of the brain called the default mode network, which is super activated. And that is the part of the brain that is connected to like extrasensory perception, intuition. And what I think is so fascinating is that we often associate that as, and we attribute it to the continuation of our species, like maternal instinct and intuition is why our children stay alive. Our babies are born like helpless blobs. They would die in 24 hours without us. And yet it's maternal instinct and intuition that keeps the species alive. Well, it's also the thing that helps our businesses grow and evolve. It's also the thing, and there are billionaires from, I don't even know, pick your billionaire founder. Sarah Blakely attributes intuition as one of the like feminine superpowers of business. But I think it's so cool that it's not just a feminine superpower, it is like a maternal superpower on steroids.
Mhm. I love that. That is such an accurate lens to view it. I would have said intuition too. I've been asked that question before, and I think women's intuition is the greatest gift from God.
I agree.
What is a favorite moment in the past month that you've had that has nothing to do with business?
I mean, so we make our own ice cream here at the farm. We have a local farmer just down the road who makes the most delicious raw milk and sells the most delicious raw milk. They don't make it, they just get it straight from the cow. And we have this old school ice cream maker. So one of our favorite summer traditions is making ice cream basically every night because it's so healthy. We just make it with raw milk, cream, and a little bit of maple syrup, and then whatever flavor we have. And so the first image that popped into my mind as you said that, that's just bringing me so much joy, is like my kids' faces with just like ice cream all over their faces, sprinkles, like the cone, like James, he's like is a little interested in the top, but then he just like bites the bottom of the cone and it just goes everywhere. But just like the mess and the magic. And I was talking about this with Toby the other day. And sometimes when you're in the trenches and it's like you're on the floor scrubbing up God knows what for the 70th time in the day, you're tired, right? It's like, yes, it's amazing, it's full on, and it's a high contact sport in these early years. But they say like they interview people who are like in their 70s or 80s and nearing the end of their life. It's like if you could go back to one moment, it's like I would take one day in the trenches again when my kids were that little. And it makes me like teary thinking about that, because it's like I'm living those days right now and I'm not missing them. I'm here for them. And there are days that I just want to like squeeze the sand as it's like moving through the hourglass, because they're so rich and they're full on and they're exhausting and they're just everything that I've ever dreamed of. And they're just here, they're happening. So just the everyday.
I love that for you. Blessed, blessed, blessed.
Yeah.
Our signature She Wears the Pants question. Looking back on your journey of wearing the pants, what message do you want to relay for future generations of women in business?
You can do both. You can do both. You were born for both. Your biology supports you to do both. Don't you ever for a second feel like you need to choose between your ambition and your motherhood. Because for me, the Venn diagram, and this is like for my business, but it's my worldview, is motherhood, ambition, and the overlap between them is legacy. And you were born for both. That's what I would say to her.
Oh my God, Kat, I love it. I knew today was going to be exceptional, but you've raised the bar as per usual, as per usual. Tell everybody listening who are now obsessed with you where they can find you.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley. This was so fun. You can find me. I have my own podcast, the Millionaire Mother Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify. You can go to themillionairemother.com to see everything we're up to and the ways that we support mothers in business. I'm at The Millionaire Mother on Instagram, so you can come say hi there. And we also just launched a new website under katescutter.com. So that's CAITSCUDDER, katescutter.com. And that is more high level, like behind the scenes about the founder for other things that I'm up to in the ways I'm supporting mothers beyond just the coaching work. So you can head to katescutter.com to see that there. And I have an amazing newsletter, I will say, called The Millionaire Mother Diaries. So you can DM me the word diaries on Instagram if you want to be added to that.
Amazing. Kate, thank you so much for your time and energy. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much for having me, Ashley.
This was She Wears the Pants, where women rise into what they're meant to hold. If this episode moved you, changed you, or challenged you, send it to a woman you want to see rise. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. And if you're ready for deeper strategy, identity expansion, and high-level support, you can find me on Instagram at Ashley Deland. Until next time, keep leading boldly, building intentionally, and becoming the woman your calling requires.